Hey, it's me, it's Ty. Welcome to the podcast, The Emotional Thesaurus, a podcast that helps you deal, heal, and most importantly, feel your feelings. We are on episode 3. I'm super excited to bring this episode to you today. If you're new here, my name is Ty, and this episode is about the fear of being seen and still being left. How to overcome that perception wound. Because I know I'm not the only one that goes through it. So, this episode, we're going to be unpacking the fear of being seen, the fear of rejection, unworthiness, amongst a bunch of other things. So, please get comfortable, sit back, relax. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube channel. We drop episodes every Friday. Let's get into it. I have something to say. And I know what I'm going to say is going to ruffle a couple of feathers. It's going to make some people a little uncomfortable, but I think what I'm going to say is going to resonate with a lot of people. This video or this podcast episode is for the people that really want to put themselves out there, but have a fear of being seen. More so, have a fear of being perceived. And with that fear of being seen and being perceived, also have a really huge fear of being rejected and left. I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about really putting yourself out there, getting over being seen, and understanding that even if they leave, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. I want to talk about that today because I feel like a lot of us walk around with this fear of being seen. We're afraid of how people perceive us. We're afraid that that perception turns into rejection, so much so that we don't want people around us. And I'm just here to let you know that I want to talk about that. So, where does the fear of being seen originate? I think the fear of being seen isn't really about being seen. It's not about just being looked at. It's not about somebody looking at you and thinking, oh my God, what are they thinking about me? It's more so about how you're perceived. How are they perceiving you? What is their interpretation of who you are when they look at you? As a person with a very big personality, that's very emotional, that is very talkative, I know that I definitely have to overcome how people perceive me, because if I were to let how people perceived me play in my mind, I would never post a video on TikTok or YouTube because I would walk around thinking to myself that I'm too much. Do you hear me? I would walk around thinking I am too much. And to be honest, for a long time, I thought that about myself. For a really long time, I thought, oh my God, I talk too much. I'm very boisterous. I'm very loud. My laugh is very loud. I talk very loud. I don't know how to whisper for shit. I'm 5'8". I'm full figured. I'm a lot. And I would say that in a way that was so mean to me. When I think about it, when I look back at it now, it was such a mean way to talk about myself. But the reason that I talked about myself to that capacity and to that extent is because of how I was being perceived by others. I was letting others' perceptions of how they saw me paint my inner narrative. So if someone who was a little turned off by someone as loud and as vibrant and as boisterous and as communicative, as talkative as I was, came and said to me, "Oh my God, Ty is so much." I would let that be my reality because I was living my life by way of their perception. And that honestly just reinforced the fear of being seen. But when I take a step back and I look at it, the only reason why I was afraid of being seen is because I was living by somebody else's perception. A lot of you are walking around thinking that you're afraid of being seen because of how someone's going to judge you. But if you let someone else's perception become your reality, you become the person that's judging you. You become the person that judges you. Harsher and meaner and crueler than anyone else. I used to be the person that would say mean things about myself first, so someone else couldn't say it first. But then as I got older, I realized I am tearing myself down trying to beat someone to the punch that may not even think that way about me because of how I let someone else's perception colored how I saw myself. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the assumptions, the categorizations, the stereotypes, and the conclusions that people make. Because at the end of the day, no one's perception is a proper perception of who you are. For some people, this content that I make may be a little bit too much. It's like she's pulling back the curtain and showing everything. Why is she doing that? She's doing too much. For other people, it's like, God, finally, someone who's being honest and having the real conversation about the real shit that we're experiencing and the real things that we're feeling. Thank God. But it's like, if I lived my life focusing, and if you lived your life focusing on someone else's perceptions, would you be who you are today? And I'm not gonna lie, I lived my life for a really long time trying to fit into someone else's perceptions. But I think the thing that helped me find my voice was the things that made me feel the most like myself. I became a makeup artist and I began filming videos on social media. And I really fell in love with creating things that made me feel the most like myself. And around the time that I started to create beauty videos, there weren't many girls that looked like me that were creating beauty videos because we were made to feel like, oh, you don't need makeup. And the only reason why people would say that is because they did not have the education to properly color match dark-skinned women. So I became the girl that was able to color match dark-skinned women because number one, I am a dark-skinned woman. And number two, I just felt like I wanted to be the thing that people needed. And I think when it came to me living in that perception, trying to fit into a mold that made sense to other people, I saw a really big deficit in what I needed. So I became what I needed because I stopped living in other people's perceptions. And then I think on top of that, the fear of being seen kind of fell away because I started to live my life for me. A lot of you guys are not living your lives for you. You guys are living your lives like you are at a casino in Las Vegas trying to get like that jackpot where we get everything to line up and money. And what I mean by that is like trying to find the perfect configuration of yourself that makes others happy. And I'm going to ask you, aren't you tired of trying to fit into a mold that does not fit you? Aren't you exhausted of trying to be something that you know you are just to make someone else comfortable? Aren't you tired of being the person that makes everyone else comfortable while you sit in discomfort? Because I know for damn sure I was that girl and I was tired of doing it. And once I stopped trying to perform for someone else's perception, the fear of being seen fell away. When I sit down and I film these podcast episodes, the last thing I'm thinking is, what are people going to think about it? The only thing I'm thinking is, I'm saying something that I wish someone said to me that's the only thing I'm thinking about. That's how the fear of being seen falls away. But I also want to talk about what else it means when it comes to the fear of being seen and still being left, because at the end of the day, that's what people are fearing. They're fearing being seen, being perceived in a way that's not accurate. And then once that person gathers that perception, they're afraid that that person's going to look at them and say, you know what, you're not worthy. You are not worthy of my presence. You are not worthy of me staying. You are not worthy of me loving you. You are not worthy. That is what people are afraid of, which is a fear that I completely understand, but a fear that's not rooted in reality. It's like a really big inflated sense of anxiety. And the thing is, the more you avoid yourself and the more you perform for people's perceptions, the bigger the anxiety will get. The bigger the anxiety will get, the more discomfort you'll feel, the more overwhelmed you'll feel, the more disconnected from yourself you'll feel. And the reason why you will feel like that is because you are running away from your perception, trying to fit into someone else's because you're afraid of being rejected. The underlying fear of being rejected comes from not being deemed worthy. And when it comes to worthiness, worthiness comes to our value. And what people fail to realize is that you're worthy just because you exist. Being is a sense of worthiness. Existing is a sense of worthiness. You being who you are, no possessions, just who you are, just you, is worthy. But the thing is, we're not taught worthiness. We're taught deserving. So because we're taught deserving, that means that we fall into this space of overperforming, over delivering, trying to contort ourselves in a way that makes other people comfortable, while simultaneously ignoring that ache that we feel because we're acting like something that is not organic to us. There was a point in time where I tried to sit myself down a little bit. I tried to not laugh as loud. I tried to not be as expressive. I tried not to be as boisterous. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it would just easier. But then I thought to myself, easier for who? Would it be easier for them or easier for me? And when I thought about that version of myself, the Ty that's quieter, the Ty that puts herself into a box, the Ty that doesn't express her feelings, the Ty that isn't honest about the things that really upset her, the Ty that is really running away from who she is, that Ty. When I think about that Ty, I'm just like, that's not me. That's what you want me to be. You want me to be palatable. A lot of people are going to want you to be palatable. A lot of people are going to take the best things about you and wish that they were watered down. And I'm just here to tell you something. Don't let nobody fucking water you down. That's what someone else's perception can do. Someone else's perception can make you abandon who you are at your true essence, at your core. Imagine me quiet, not talking. That means I would have never found my way to this freaking microphone. Imagine that. That'd be crazy. It'd be so disappointing. But once I let go of that fear of rejection, because I stopped wondering about who saw me. And I asked myself, did I see me? When I looked in the mirror, do you see yourself? Do you like what you see looking back at you? And I don't mean in a physical sense. I mean in a spiritual sense, in an energy sense. I love my personality. I love my laugh. I love how I move. I love how I think. I love how I exist. But it took me a long time to get here, and the reason why it took me so long is because I was trying to fit into someone else's perceptions of me. And once I stopped trying to be what others deemed worthy and enough to be, is when life got a little bit easier. I didn't really give a fuck who looked at me or not. I danced in my own light and I didn't dim it. People are going to want you to dim their light because you shine too bright. And if you have people like that around you, tell them to get some fucking sunglasses. It's not your responsibility to make others comfortable for how they perceive you. Here's what I want to talk about too. Like, there's this thing, I call it like cosplaying, right? And I don't mean it in the sense like throwing on a cute anime outfit and, dressing up as Inuyasha for Halloween. I mean like actual you are as an individual. Masking. We can call it masking. But I'm not using it in the spectrum sense. I want to respect that. I'm not using it in the spectrum sense. I'm using it in just more so simulating and adapting and by way of survival, okay? So I think there are a lot of people, they're cosplaying, contorting themselves into what others want you to think about yourself. And when it comes to the cosplaying, what we do is we kind of pick in qualities we think people around us would like. And well, if I'm louder, maybe they'll respect me more. If I'm funnier, maybe I'll have more friends. If I'm prettier, maybe he'll ask me out. If I'm kinder, maybe they'll want me around more. If I'm more loving, maybe they'll love me more. That's what I mean when it comes to cosplaying who you are with the hopes of pulling someone close and making them pulling someone close and having them be the thing that anchors you in your being because you are picking and choosing qualities that you think that they would like. I've been that person. It's not fun being that person. It's exhausting being that person because people don't see you as a actual human being. They see you as a character because you put on and you cosplay and you act as something that you are not to make everyone else comfortable while you sit in discomfort. And the thing is, when you start to cosplay and pick and choose different parts of yourself that you think others will like, what happens is it leads to self-abandonment. What happens is it leads to self-abandonment. And self-abandonment can be very subtle. It can be you not following through with your dreams. That's a really big one, honestly. But it can also be you watering down your light, laughing at things that aren't funny, conversing with people that you don't want to talk to, engaging in friendships just to make others comfortable. Self-abandonment means when you decenter and everything else around you takes more priority than you do. You become the bottom of your list. You get lost in translation. And when you are cosplaying and acting as something that is foreign from you, you have a habit and a tendency of self-abandoning yourself. There was a job that I worked when I was like 22 years old. When I was 22 years old, I worked at this job with this company. This person saw potential in me to be an asset to their company. And in some ways I was, right? In some ways I was, and in some ways I was still learning, but I was not in an environment where development and support in the area that I was in was going to be was doing her own thing, which I completely understand. So I over delivered. I over communicated. I did everything to the best of my ability, and I still was fired. I thought that she was perceiving me in such a way that she thought that I was the best thing since sliced bread. And homegirl said, "You are not the bread that we want. I'm sorry, girl. I'm sorry for that, man. But we're gonna have to let you go." And she knew my circumstance. At that point in time, when in my early 20s, life was lifing. Okay. She knew my circumstance. Homegirl fired me and sent me unemployment papers. Like, here you go, figure it out. And here we are years later, and we figured it out. But I definitely do think that I had a of rejection. I don't want to be rejected by her. I didn't want her to see a version of me that she didn't like. So I became a yes woman. I became a people pleaser. The job crossed over the boundaries. Work-life balance, what was that? Respect, what was that? Communication, non-existent. So and it was a lot, and it put me in it was a lot of self-abandonment. So much so that it landed me in the hospital. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But the point that I'm trying to make is because I was cosplaying and trying to contort myself and shapeshift and be what I thought she wanted me to be, I ended up self-abandoning myself and ignoring my boundaries and becoming a chronic people pleaser to keep a job that I still ended up losing. And that's another thing too. I want you guys to know that the fear of being seen and putting yourself out there and still being left isn't just posting yourself on social media, isn't just following your dream. Being seen can be, I'm going to be really good at my job. I'm going to be one of the top performers at my job. You know what? I'm going to show up early. I'm going to stay late. I'm going to take on all the extra projects. I'm going to do everything. And when it's time for me to be rewarded, I'll be rewarded because they perceive me as a hardworking individual. But little do you know, after you take all these, you volunteer and you take all this stuff, right? You volunteer, you take all this stuff, you never say no, you show up all the time. One of your coworkers says, "Well, she doesn't show up to any of the gatherings. She's not really social. She doesn't really fit in with the company culture. She's a little aggressive." All your hard work meant nothing because someone perceived you as aggressive. Being seen isn't just about being on a large platform. Being seen is being around people and hoping that they see the best in you and they still choose to see what they want to see because everybody's lens is different. And the sooner you can accept that everybody's lens is different, is the sooner you will stop trying to perform for everyone seeing you in the best light. Point blank, period. There are some people that know me and I'm probably a villain in their stories. There are some people that fuck with me and I am like one of the saviors in their stories. And at the end of the day, I can't pick and choose how they see me. All I can do is show up as authentically as I can and make sure that I see looking back at me at the end of the night. When Ty lays down in her bed, looking up at her ceiling, right before she closes her eyes, Ty can ask herself, "Were you yourself today?" And she can say confidently, "Hell fucking yeah, I was. Hell yeah, I was." And the question is, can you say that about you? Now, there's going to be some times where you're going to have to kind of cosplay. But you don't want the cosplay to become a part of your being. I'm not going to lie to you, especially since I'm in my 30s, well, I really don't care. I don't care to be kind. No, I don't care to be nice. I am kind. I don't care if people like me or not. There was a point in time where that used to keep me up at night. And that all came down to that fear of rejection, which led into me not feeling worthy, you know? And once that, oh, wait a minute, I am worthy whether you fuck with me or not. You rejecting me doesn't change the fact that I'm not rejecting me. I think I'm doing better than most. Do you know what I mean? But after being at job and doing all the things that I thought I was doing correctly and having her still let me go, it showed me no matter what you, like I said, no matter what you do, people are going to look at you how they look at you. But I learned a lot from that job. I learned that I'm valuable regardless of other people's perceptions. I learned that people will view you through their own lens and have their own value systems, and you have no say so on how they decide to distribute that. And also, being left is a byproduct of their capacity and not my worth. That was the thing that I really had to learn. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned when it comes to people leaving after perceiving me is that them leaving is a byproduct of their capacity. It has nothing to do with my value. And I still have to tell myself that today because, like, let me tell you something. As a 30 going on 32-year-old woman, I had to tell myself, I have to actively tell myself, like, I am enough here or not. I am enough whether they love me or not. And them leaving has nothing to do with me and everything to do with what they have the capacity for. Like, if you go into a restaurant and you don't like the food, like it, it's just not your cup of tea. You're like, yeah, nah, not feeling it, don't like it, get me something else. Does that make the restaurant a shitty restaurant? By your standards, yes, because they're not giving you what you want. But does the restaurant close up shop because you walked out? No. For somebody else, that's their favorite restaurant. That's their favorite restaurant. That's their favorite spot. I can just simplify it as this. You could be the biggest, fattest, juiciest peach, and there'll be someone that still don't like peaches. It don't mean that peaches aren't the bomb. Someone just doesn't like them. And I just think that if we took the power away from people leaving and put the power back in our hands and just ask ourselves, do we fuck with us? And if the answer is yeah, then honestly, you're winning because you fuck with you. As long as you think that you cool, as long as you rock with you, that's all that matters. I want to get into this topic, self-acceptance and authenticity. In order for you to not have a fear of being seen, you have to learn self-acceptance. Self-acceptance and authenticity, those are paramount when it comes to really not having this fear or this discomfort when it comes to being seen, okay? I feel like you are so caught up with being seen, it's only because you don't accept from what you're giving. So it's really impossible to satisfy everyone. You have to focus on your own satisfaction. Do you like who you are? Do you like how you show up? Do you like what you give? Do you like what you have to offer? And if you can answer those questions confidently and say, yeah, I do, then you're doing better than most. Some will always think that you're too much. Some will always think that you take up too much space. Some will think that you should be smaller, quieter, to yourself, while others don't think you take up enough space. But at the end of the day, people are frugal. People are going to wake up one day and bang with you and then wake up another day and say, yeah, not you. Not those. And you have to make sure that while all that's happening, you're not losing yourself in the process. And you also have to practice inherent selfishness. We act like selflessness is a negative thing, but selfishness is not. It's a you to prioritize your own thoughts, your own needs, your own wants. Because in life, you should be prioritizing your own feelings, not anybody else's or anybody's perceptions. And if you are doing that, the only person you're hurting is yourself. Now, let's talk about living authentically. You want to focus less on how people perceive you and more on whether you're moving in a way that lights you up. Do you like who you are? Do you like what you're doing? Do you like where you're at? Do you like where you're going? Are you tucking parts of yourself away to please other people? And if you're answering these questions with a resounding yes, the only person you're letting down is yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the person that sits with you more than anyone. More are the person that sits with you more than anyone. Okay? So if you looking at yourself and you're like, yeah, I'm not feeling it, I'm not living as authentically as I should be, maybe it's time to start practicing authentic living by way of thinking with you in mind first. That's the only way this is going to work. You have to think with you in mind first. The more you think with you in mind, the more you can move authentically. The less you think with you in mind, the more you're locking yourself into someone else's perceptions. And the last and final thing is what's really important too. You have to embrace your true self. You have to look at you have your true self. And the way that you do that is by really embracing the traits that you normally would hide. Normally I would try my hardest not to be so loud, but it's like, girl, you are loud. You are boisterous. You're passionate. You got a lot of personality. That's you. Why are you hiding that for? And who are you hiding it from? Because the person that I try to be when I'm not that is. So it's all about embracing your true self. If you tell me I'm a lot, I'm just going to tell you that you're not enough. Because at the end of the day, I'm living my life with me in mind. And I don't care how you see me. And you have to make it your mission to not care how people see you. And I think the way that you do that is you got to validate you. You got to pour into you. You got to light you up and you got to hype you up. The thing is, what's really important is to overcome the perception wound by letting it go. And the perception wound, like I said, is not a fear of being seen. It's about being seen and being abandoned. Like, I saw it, I like it, and I left it. And the thing is, when people get left, when people go through this and they have that perception of like being seen and being, it stems from past experiences that are linked to abandonment. It can really, really mess somebody up. Like, there are a lot of people that have gone through things where people that should have stayed left. There are people that have been abandoned by their moms. There are people that have been abandoned by their dads. There are wives that have been abandoned by their husbands, husbands that have been by their wives, siblings that have not showed up in the way that they needed to. And I can keep going on and on and on and out of 10. When it comes to that, those early stages of abandonment, or abandonment in any stage in your life, people tend to internalize these experiences and blame themselves. That also comes down to that perception wound and being perceived. Because it's like, you saw me, you didn't like it, you left, I must have been the problem. Because it's human nature to fill the silence with the worst case scenario. I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with somebody's son and they've just ghosted me, and I've put the worst possible reasoning for why he ghosted me. It was never just like, you know what, you guys weren't compatible. He didn't see as a prospect. It's got to be like, oh, he thinks I'm the worst thing. I'm not enough. Ah, this is why I'm single. That's how I used to think when I was like very unhealed. But where I am now, I could give two shits. Because now I tell him, like, you know, you leaving to do with me. But it's an active practice. It's, you look to your left and your dad's not there. As especially like, even if you're an ass woman and you like, man, my dad was around and I must be the reason. You know, I must be why my dad's not around. We all have a habit of filling the silence with the worst case scenario, and we have to honestly age up that coping mechanism, because you're not six. You're a grown ass adult who understands how the world works just a little bit more than you did when you were 16. So, with that being said, you can establish and put new systems in place. And new systems does not mean that the old habits ain't gonna come running back. But at least you have something in place to combat the narrative, to combat the train of thought, to combat the old habit. That filling the silence with the worst case scenario, after you've been perceived, after you've been seen, and that person's still leaving you, bruh, it's just a knee-jerk reaction. And it all comes back to this. When you are rewriting that narrative in your head, that narrative that's telling you that you're the problem, you're the reason why mom and dad didn't work out. You're the reason why you didn't get the job. You're the reason why he broke up with you on Christmas. That actually happened to me once I was 14 years old. It's crazy. You're the reason why. When you come back and you have a new narrative that's like compassionate, what you're doing is you're engaging in self-love. A lot of people think that self-love is bubble baths, affirmations, dressing nicely. Self love is also looking at an outdated narrative and putting a new one in place that supports who you are becoming. Yeah, run and tell that. Run and me, when it came to the art of self love and combating the narratives and really trying to make sure that I didn't fill the silence with scenarios that didn't make me feel the best, I focused on just kind of like building my personal tool belt. And speaking to myself positively was like one of my instruments. Like, I used my voice to speak very positively. The thing is, there's a self-love when it comes to having this perception wound and going through these things, trying to figure out who you are and not being afraid of being left after being your full self. The main thing after self-love is self-acceptance. You have to accept who you are. Like, even if you put out there and you are still left, it's crucial that you like what you see when you look in the mirror. That's number one. And number two, accepting that, like, I like who I'm with. You know, like, I vibe with it. I think it's cool. I think it's fine, you know? And as long as we're in that space of self-acceptance, the fear of being seen won't be so intense. It won't be so, oh, I don't like it. I can't put myself out there because I'm afraid of how people are going to see, how people are going to perceive me. People's perceptions have nothing to do with you and everything to do with how they view the world. That's another thing too. Like, people's perceptions have nothing to do with you and everything with how they view the world. When I'm around fucked up company, I leave. Not my responsibility to even sift through trying to understand somebody's perception of me. Cause one thing I guys to live by. Those who don't mind matter. Yourself with people that don't water you down, but also you want to not water you down. Sometimes it's not your surroundings of people that are watering you down. Sometimes it's you trying to beat somebody to the punch and you're watering yourself down. Stop watering yourself down. Be who you need to be. Respectfully, though. Be who you need to be. Make sure when you're sitting down at the end of the day that you know that you were your full self, because you owe that to yourself at least, to be who you need to be fully, entirely, at all times. At all times. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. This episode was really important to me because it was something that I struggled with for a really long time. Okay. So please don't to Instagram, the Emotional Thesaurus Podcast, and on TikTok, the Emotional Thesaurus Podcast. We drop episodes every Friday. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. It's all Ella Tai. I would really love for you guys to kind of like, show some, see what you guys think about this episode. Tell me what you think. Thank you so much for listening to the Emotional Thesaurus. My name is Tai. I'm so happy to have you here, and thank you for listening.